Britain was the world leader in abolishing slavery, outlawing the slave trade in 1807 and later stamping it out across its colonies. At least that's the claim. But what if the British Empire's history with slavery is more complicated? In this video, we will be mapping the secret timeline of slavery in the British Empire, showing the forgotten stories of heroes, villains, and victims along the way. You will see how British slavery changed over time and how it formally ended. But the UK still faces a big slavery problem today. Stay around to find out why. Britain had slaves long before it set foot in Africa. It existed until the 11th century when the Normans swept over England, merging the existing slavery institution with serfdom. Under the feudal system, serfs could not be bought or sold individually, but they were forced to work for the lord of the manor, who owned the land they occupied. Gradually, things started to change. In the 1560s, Sir John Hawkins of Plymouth, a privateer, took 4 voyages across the Atlantic, transporting 1,500 enslaved Africans to colonies in the Caribbean and Central America. Back at home, Barbary pirates were increasingly raiding the southern coasts of England. The king, Charles I, was presented with the Great Remonstrance in 1641, which pleaded with him to stop the attacks. His failure to act helped lead to the English Civil War. Yet the Barbary pirate victims were dwarfed by the African slave trade that was developing. By the 1690s, 30,000 people from Africa were being taken across the Atlantic every year by European powers. These numbers would accelerate in the 1700s, eventually growing to 85,000 per year. 90% of enslaved Africans were sent by the British to the Caribbean and South America, with port cities like Bristol, Liverpool, and Glasgow becoming profitable hubs for the slave trade. Yet something strange was happening in the British legal system. Due to centuries of serfdom, slavery was not formally recognised under English law, but the law was often misinterpreted, and 10,000 to 14,000 black Africans were forced to sign waivers of indentured servitude in England and Wales. One little-known injustice is the treatment of the Romany people. At this time, Western European nations dealt with their gypsy problem by shipping them overseas in large numbers, with the English and Scots mainly sending them to North America and the Caribbean. As the 18th century drew to a close, abolitionism was gathering pace in Britain. In the 1780s, William Wilberforce and others formed the Clapham sect. Later, the Society for Effecting the Abolition of the Slave Trade was established in London. The abolitionists lobbied hard in Parliament, finally succeeding in passing the Slave Trade Act in 1807, which banned the slave trade across the empire. But justice would not be so easily won. Did the Slave Trade Act fully abolish slavery in the British Empire in 1807? No. In directly governed colonies like Canada and Mauritius, this did not occur until 1834, when owners were bought out under the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833. Exceptions were made for the East India Company in India, Ceylon, and St. Helena. British protectorates, which were indirectly ruled, also continued to legalize slavery in Nigeria, Sudan, and the Maldives. And there was the matter of transportation. Convicts were sent to Australia until 1868, with many of them treated as a form of slave labor. You'd be forgiven for thinking slavery ended there, but there is still a sinister reality that carries on today. Britain faces an ongoing struggle with slavery. Despite being outlawed, modern slavery or human trafficking continues to be a problem. Charities estimate that there are currently between 12,000 to 17,000 potential victims of modern slavery in the UK, with nearly half of them children. If you want to help, consider taking a look at charities like Unseen or the British Red Cross. Links are in the description.